You are listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report, episode 185.2.4. Cam Hindman reacts to Tri-Central Sectional Draw.
You're listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report with your host, Greg Mengelt.
Welcome, basketball fans. The IHSAA boys basketball sectional draw was revealed Sunday, and we have reactions from several local head coaches, including Tri-Central's Cam Hindman, whose Trojans look like a serious contender to win their first sectional in 19 years. Coach Hindman's thoughts on Sunday's draw coming up momentarily. Tri-Central opens the Class A Southwood sectional in Wednesday's first quarterfinal at 6 o'clock. That's Wednesday, March 5th against 5 and 14 Daleville. The two teams played an overtime classic on January 4th, with the Trojans winning 55-53. The Tri-Central Daleville winner will play the winner of the second quarterfinal on Wednesday between 8 and 12 Westdale and 1 and 18 Southern Wells. There are three of the top teams in the sectional on the other side of the bracket: 10 and 10 Northfield, 8 and 13 North Miami, and host and 10 and 10 Southwood. The championship game is scheduled for Saturday, March 8th at 7:30. Since the win over Daleville on January 4th, Tri-Central is just 2 and 10 against a really tough schedule, and they finished their regular season Friday at home against one of those sectional favorites, Northfield.
You're listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report with your host, Greg Mengelt.
Well, Coach, the sectional at Southwood looks like one of the most balanced sectionals in all of Class A, an 8-team sectional. You'll be playing Wednesday in the first game against a Daleville team you've played earlier this year. Looks like about 5 or 6 teams could win this. Coach, your thoughts on the draw?
Yeah, I thought we probably couldn't have gotten a bad draw, and that probably goes for every team in that sectional, because I think you're right. It's very balanced, and I think it's wide open for anybody, and anybody can win it. But no, I like where we ended up. I think we're in a pretty good position, and Daleville knows what we're bringing to the table, and we know what they've got, and we like our chances.
Yeah, and I guess for possibly the only bad thing about this sectional is that it's at Southwood, which means for you guys, but at least you have the first game on Wednesday night, so you guys won't get back as late as if you had to play the second game.
Yeah, that's true. And it's not a terrible drive for us, but um, we're a little bit lucky. It's worse for the Dalevilles and the Cowans and the Westdales than it is for us. So um, yeah, I mean I don't think it's necessarily bad that it's at Southwood. You'd always like to play it at home, but no, we've not been up there and played before. It's going to be something new for us, and um, I think it'll be interesting, and I think it'll be a good sectional.
Coach, you're certainly going to be battle tested, especially after the last couple of weeks. Taylor, Eastbrook, and Clinton Central or Clinton Prairie in 3 straight games. That should have you ready.
Yeah, well, we definitely know where we needed to work, and we had a couple of team meetings. Um, we knew, and honestly, we're finished with not Frontier. I'm sorry, Northfield, and Northfield's no slouch. So, um, we finished with a really strong schedule, and we had a couple of sit downs after practices, and we got kind of all talked and decided what our goals were, and we knew that there was a potential for losing out the rest of the season, and the whole thought was, regardless of how that goes, um, you've got to take the learning from each of those, depending on what direction they go, and apply it to the sectional, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what your record is. or those losses during the season. If you can cut down the nets during the sectional, everything else is forgotten. And I think the boys are on board with that. I think they're okay if we drop a few of those games, because the goal is eventually down the road, and we know we've got a uh, pretty good opportunity in this sectional, and I think the boys are looking ahead to that. Uh, so really mentally, we're in a really good spot. Um, we've had a couple weeks of probably some of the best practices we've had in the last few years. Honestly, regardless of the losses that we've taken over the last couple of weeks, I really still like where we sit.
Uh, Cam, I was going to say, when looking at your draw, probably you are probably happy that the one team you did not draw is Northfield, since you
Yeah,
played
yeah,
them on Friday, and especially if you had to turn around and play
absolutely.
them on Tuesday or Wednesday, that would have been uh, interesting.
Yeah, yeah, it would have. No, you're exactly right. And not only do we not play them, they're in the opposite end of the bracket, so we won't see them until finals if we're lucky enough to get there. So no, that's exactly what we all said. If there's anybody we don't want to draw, it's Northfield, and that worked out great for us. So no, I think you're dead on with that, Michelle.
And to get Northfield and Southwood in the opposite bracket, that's pretty nice. Little luck there.
Yeah, those two just played each other, I
Yeah.
think, last weekend.
Yep.
And I think Southwood maybe got the best of them on that. But yeah, I think Southwood's got a good team. I think Northfield's got a good team. North Miami's got a good team. Not Delphi.
Daleville.
Westdale's got a good
Yep.
team. It just,
Daleville almost beat
I think it's
Franklin the
going to be
other
a good
night.
one. Yes, they did. Yes, they did.
Cowan just beat Elwood. They're a capable team. It's there are no gimmies in this one unless you draw Southern Wells, and you didn't. So
Coach, Cam, I mean, and I know you've talked about the schedule, but what what about your team do you think you want to see honed, maybe, or sharpened before you go into the sectional to increase your chances of cutting down the nets?
Well, it's been the same thing all year long. It's been turning the ball over and empty possessions, and we've got to learn to score. I don't know that we're going to get that learned in a week's time here, but this team is capable of doing those things. It's just doing them consistently, and we've got to learn to take advantage when those opportunities are there to kind of put your foot on the gas and speed things up a little bit, and we just haven't been able to do that. So we've got to score the ball. Um, but I think most importantly is we've got to take care of the basketball, and we've got to understand that every single possession that's there is precious. And anytime you turn the ball over, as we did with Eastbrook the other night, we had 31 turnovers. You just you're giving another team 31 opportunities to score against you, and once we learn that, we'll be fine. But that's the tough part, and it's a big ask to get taken care of in a week. And I think realistically, it's going to be tough to next impossible to get that fixed. We just got to manage it and hope that the turnover bug doesn't bite us over the course of this tournament.
Yeah, it's I'm gonna also guess is maybe to get some consistency from the perimeter. Uh, I know you've had certain players be hot in certain games, but then they might score well, and then the next game they don't, or maybe not getting enough, making enough shots from 3-point range to really kind of open up the inside even more for Jankovic and Hoback.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of all of that. We still have not found our identity with ball handlers on the outside. Um, I've mentioned it before that Ramsey, that's never been his position, is to be the number one, and he's always been a two or three the whole way through growing up. Well, a good player, we need them to step up, and then he needs to be able to step up into that role. But at the end of the day, it's not an easy thing. We've tried to find some other guys to play the point, and we've landed on Logan Yance, who has never played that position before either. But Logan's the kind of kid that just isn't scared of anything, and he's not intimidated by anything, and he just doesn't get shook up. He gets sped up, but not shook up. And that's been his thing, is he'll handle the ball, and he's not afraid of the pressure. But again, he's very right-handed. He never played that position, so he struggled a little bit with it. And then Cooper Leiniger, we've put in some spots where we need him to handle the ball. He hasn't quite gotten to the point where he's used to the speed and the size of varsity players yet. But I feel like he's really close, and once he gets that speed down, his court vision, he's a pretty good ball handler. That those kinds of things are really gonna help us out, not only just this year but next year as well. But yeah, so we've got to get our guard play up to speed, and we've got to get the ball to Jan Koviak. Honestly, teams haven't put a ton of pressure on him because they haven't had to. We've been so um, I'm trying to think of a nice word to put it, but it's just horrendous handling the basketball in the last 3 or 4 weeks that
Was
um,
horrendous the nice word that you came up with?
oh my God. Well, no, it isn't,
But
but
it's
honestly,
probably
it's what
accurate. I mean, let's
it's what
face
it's
it.
been.
Sometimes you
Yeah,
just
it's
need to
what
be
it's been.
accurate.
Yeah, and so all teams have to do is put a little bit of pressure on us on the outside, and we haven't handled it well. So we've got to get the ball past the free throw line and be able to get it into Jan Koviak. And I think kind of the opposite of what you said, Michelle. I think once we start using Jay the way we can use him, he will take pressure off the outside versus the outside taking pressure off of him. Um, because I think he's very capable of stepping out a little bit and then going back to the block, but we've got to get the ball in his hands.
Coach, thank you so much for your time, and good luck this week against Northfield. And we will talk to you very soon. Talk a little bit more about the sectional as it approaches.
Sounds good. I sure appreciate it. You guys have a good rest of the evening, and thanks again for what you do.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
Coach.
Thanks, Cam.
Thanks once again to Coach Hindman and to Michelle Garman for helping with the questioning all evening on Sunday. And thank you for listening. Please go like, subscribe, or follow us, and tell a friend about the Central Indiana Sports Report. The Central Indiana Sports Report is brought to you by DG Media. And I love Susie.